right. So today we're going to be doing a deep dive into the science of reading. And we're going to try to unpack why it's considered so effective and what makes it different from other approaches to literacy instruction. And we're looking at excerpts from an article titled Why the Science of Reading is Superior to Other Literacy Instruction Methodologies. It's really amazing how much research has gone into understanding how our brains actually learn to read.
Yeah, it really is remarkable how much has got into it. The science of reading pulls from, cognitive science, linguistic psychology. It's a true multidisciplinary approach. And what's exciting is it goes way beyond just teaching strategies. It's about understanding the cognitive processes that underpin reading itself.
I see. So instead of just focusing on how to teach, you're looking at how kids actually learn.
Exactly. And that's where those aha moments start to come in. For example, there's a landmark study that found a strong correlation between a kindergartner's phonemic awareness skills and their reading success later on. It really underscores how crucial those early building blocks are.
Wow. Can you remind me what phonemic awareness is?
Of course. It's the ability to hear, identify, and manipulate the individual sounds, the phones that make up spoken words. Think about the word cat. A young child might see that as one unit, but with phonemic awareness, they can break it down into those three distinct sounds. C-A-T.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. But how does that translate into reading?
That's where phonics comes in. It's the bridge between those sounds and their written representations, the letters. Systematic phonics instruction teaches kids how to map those sounds to letters and blend them together to decode words.
Oh, so it's like teaching them the code that unlocks written language.
Yes, and this explicit, systematic phonics instruction is a key pillar of the science of reading. It's what sets it apart from approaches like whole language, which views reading as a natural process that kids will pick up through immersion in literature.
I see. So whole language relies more on that learn by doing approach, hoping kids will absorb the patterns of language just through exposure. But doesn't that risk leaving some kids behind, especially those who don't pick it up as easily?
That's a major concern raised by proponents of the science of reading. While whole language might work for some, research suggests explicit phonics instruction is more effective overall, particularly for struggling readers and those with dyslexia.
Okay, yeah, I can see how that structured approach could be really beneficial. But what about those programs that try to blend the two? Like balanced literacy. Doesn't that seem like a reasonable compromise?
On the surface, it does. The idea is to combine phonics with elements like shared reading and guided reading. However, research indicates it often leads to uneven implementation. The phonics instruction can be less systematic and less effective than what the science of reading recommends.
So it ends up being a bit of a mixed bag. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, which is less than ideal, especially for those kids who need that strong phonics foundation.
Exactly. And that inconsistency raises questions about its reliability as a method. The science of reading, with its clear emphasis on explicit, systematic phonics, offers a much more consistent and research-backed approach.
Yeah, I'm starting to understand why there's so much buzz around the science of reading. But even if it is more effective in teaching those fundamental skills, does it really translate into a love of reading? I mean, some people argue those other approaches with all their read-alouds and rich literature, they cultivate more enthusiastic readers.
That's a great question, and it's something researchers have looked into. Interestingly, studies have shown that once kids have that solid foundation in decoding, they actually engage more deeply with literature and show greater comprehension. It's like once they're not struggling to decipher the words, they can actually enjoy the story and think critically about the content.
Interesting. Yeah, it's fascinating. It seems counterintuitive, but it makes sense when you think about it. It's like once you've mastered the mechanics of driving, you can actually enjoy the scenery and take that road trip you've always dreamed of.
That's a perfect analogy. And beyond just reading for pleasure, that strong foundation in literacy also sets them up for success in all academic areas.
Okay, I can see where you're going with this. Let's unpack that in part 2.
Welcome back to our deep dive into the science of reading. Now we've kind of laid the groundwork, so let's shift our focus to how these principles translate into real-world classroom practices.
Yeah, I'm eager to see, the science of reading in action. We've talked about the theory, but, what does it actually look like when teachers are working with students?
Well, one of the most important aspects is systematic and explicit phonics instruction. This involves breaking down the complex code of reading into manageable chunks, beginning with those foundational sound-letter relationships.
So it's not just about memorizing rules, but it's about engaging with the sounds and the symbols in a way that makes sense to kids.
Absolutely. Remember our discussion about phonemic awareness? A teacher might use a technique called sound tapping, where students physically tap out the individual sounds in a word. They might also use picture cards, sorting them by beginning or ending sounds. These types of activities help young learners grasp those abstract concepts in a more concrete and engaging way.
Yeah, those hands-on activities make so much sense. What about decoding? How does that fit into the science of reading framework?
Decoding is the exciting part, where those phonics skills are put into practice. Teachers often use decodable texts, which are books carefully crafted to include words that align with the phonics patterns students have already learned.
So the texts grow in complexity as their decoding skills develop.
Precisely. Instead of relying on context clues or guessing, they're actively applying their phonics knowledge to unlock the code of written words. And as they become more proficient decoders, their fluency and comprehension naturally soar.
It's like everything clicks into place. What about students who need a little extra support along the way? How does the science of reading address those individual needs?
Early identification is key, and targeted interventions are crucial. The science of reading emphasizes recognizing those struggling readers early on, providing them with the individualized support they need to thrive.
Yeah, it's about catching those little hiccups before they become roadblocks.
Exactly. Teachers might use assessments to pinpoint specific areas where a student is struggling, and then provide tailored instruction to address those gaps. For instance, a student who has difficulty blending sounds might receive extra practice using multisensory activities or games that make learning fun and engaging.
It's about meeting students where they are and giving them the tools they need to succeed. What I appreciate about the science of reading is that it feels so individualized.
That's one of its greatest strengths. It moves away from a one-size-fits-all approach and recognizes that every student learns differently. It's about understanding the individual needs of each learner and tailoring instruction accordingly.
Yeah, this is really starting to paint a clear picture of how the science of reading moves from theory to practice. It's more than just an idea. It's a tangible approach with real-world applications and, importantly, proven results.
It is, and it's worth emphasizing that adopting the science of reading doesn't mean throwing out everything else. Teachers can still incorporate elements like read-alouds, shared reading, and rich discussions about literature.
So it's not about replacing those enjoyable aspects of literacy education, but it's about providing that solid foundation in the mechanics of reading, a foundation that allows them to truly enjoy those other elements.
Exactly. It's about finding that sweet spot, that balance between skill development and fostering a love of reading. Of course, even with all the evidence and success stories, the science of reading has encountered some criticisms and challenges.
Yeah, that's to be expected with any new approach, I suppose. Let's address some of those concerns head on. We've already discussed teacher training and curriculum changes as potential roadblocks. What other issues have people raised?
One argument we hear is that the science of reading overemphasizes phonics and decoding, potentially neglecting comprehension and reading for meaning.
So some critics worry that it might turn reading into a purely mechanical process, stripping away the joy and wonder of stories.
That's the concern, yes. However, I think it's important to highlight that the science of reading doesn't dismiss the importance of comprehension or the joy of reading. In fact, it recognizes these elements as essential parts of becoming a skilled reader.
So it's not about choosing one over the other.
Not at all. The idea is that by providing a strong foundation in phonics and decoding, students are actually better equipped to comprehend what they're reading. They're not getting bogged down trying to decipher words, so they're free to focus on the meaning and engage with the text on a deeper level.
Right. It's like clearing the path so they can truly appreciate the journey.
Yeah,
If you're constantly stumbling over rocks, you can't enjoy the scenery.
that's an excellent analogy. The science of reading strives to pave the way for students to fully immerse themselves in the rich landscape of reading. Another critique we sometimes encounter is that the science of reading can feel too rigid or prescriptive. Some educators express concern that it might limit their creativity or their ability to tailor instruction to their students' unique needs and interests.
So they worry it could stifle their ability to adapt, to bring their own expertise and passion into the classroom.
Yes, that's the gist of it. But it's essential to remember that the science of reading is a framework, not a set of inflexible rules. It provides a solid foundation of knowledge and evidence-based practices, but it doesn't dictate every single aspect of instruction.
So there's still room for teachers to bring their own creativity and individualize their approach.
Absolutely. The science of reading equips teachers with the knowledge and tools to make informed decisions about how to best meet the needs of their students. It doesn't aim to eliminate teacher autonomy, but rather to enhance it.
That's an important distinction. It's about giving teachers more tools, not fewer. Now, let's shift gears and talk about how educators and policymakers are addressing those implementation challenges we discussed earlier.
This is where collaboration and a willingness to embrace new ideas become crucial.
Okay, let's explore some solutions. How can we overcome these roadblocks and make the science of reading accessible to more classrooms and students?
Professional development is key. We need to invest in our educators and give them the knowledge and training they need to implement the science of reading effectively. This might involve high-quality workshops, ongoing coaching, mentorship programs, and easy access to research-based resources and materials.
It sounds like it's about providing support throughout the process, not just initial training.
Exactly. It's about nurturing a culture of continuous learning and growth, keeping teachers updated on the latest research and best practices.
It's a journey, not a destination. What about the curriculum itself? How can we ensure that it aligns with the science of reading principles?
Curriculum alignment is another crucial piece of the puzzle. Schools and districts need to make sure that their curricula and instructional materials are consistent with the science of reading approach.
So it's not just about teaching the science of reading in isolation, but about creating a cohesive and integrated literacy experience across all grade levels and subject areas.
Precisely. We want to provide students with a seamless literacy journey that builds upon their skills and knowledge from year to year.
Yeah, it's about creating a system that supports students from the very beginning, nurturing their literacy development throughout their education.
Yes, and that brings us to another important point, addressing resistance to change. It's natural for some educators to feel hesitant about embracing a new approach, especially if they've had success with other methods.
So how can we bridge that gap and create a more receptive environment for the science of reading?
Open and honest communication is vital. We need to engage in data-driven discussions about the research and evidence supporting the effectiveness of the science of reading.
So sharing the research, showcasing the positive outcomes, and really demonstrating its potential.
Absolutely. It's also crucial to listen to educators' concerns and address them in a respectful and thoughtful way. We want to foster a collaborative environment where everyone feels valued and heard, a culture of shared learning and continuous improvement.
Yeah, it's about building a community of practice where educators can learn from each other, share their experiences, and support each other through this transition.
Exactly. By working together, we can create a more equitable and effective literacy education system that empowers every student to become a proficient and confident reader.
This has been incredibly insightful. As we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I'm curious, what has resonated most with you so far about the science of reading?
For me, it's the emphasis on understanding the cognitive processes behind reading. It's about recognizing that reading isn't just a skill to be acquired, but a complex and fascinating interplay of brain functions.
That's a great point. What aspects are you eager to explore further?
I'm particularly interested in delving into the role of neuroscience in shaping literacy instruction. The advancements in brain imaging and our understanding of how the brain learns to read are truly remarkable. I believe this intersection of neuroscience and education holds immense potential for creating even more effective and personalized learning experiences.
I'm with you on that one.
But
It feels like we're on the verge of a new era in literacy education.
I think so too. And as we move into the final part of our deep dive, I encourage you to consider the broader implications of the science of reading. How might this approach impact society as a whole? What does the future hold for this groundbreaking approach to literacy?
Those are excellent questions to ponder. Join us for part 3 as we zoom out and explore the wider implications of the science of reading. We'll examine its potential to transform lives and reshape our world, creating a brighter future for all. We're back for the final part of our deep dive into the science of reading. We've explored the what and the how, and now it's time to kind of ponder the so what, those broader implications that extend beyond the classroom.
Yeah, it's fascinating to consider how something as fundamental as reading instruction can ripple outward, influencing not just individual lives, but like the fabric of society itself.
I'm really intrigued by that idea. We've talked about the positive impact on students, but how does the science of reading potentially change things on a larger scale?
Well, think about the skills that underpin a thriving society. Communication, critical thinking, access to information, informed decision-making literacy is at the core of all of these.
It's true. It's hard to imagine participating fully in any aspect of society without strong reading skills.
Exactly. And that's where the potential impact of the science of reading becomes really powerful. If we can equip more people with those foundational literacy skills, it opens doors to education, employment, civic engagement. It empowers individuals to reach their full potential.
It creates a ripple effect, a more informed and engaged citizenry.
Precisely. Imagine a society where everyone has the ability to decipher complex information, to evaluate different perspectives, to contribute meaningfully to important conversations. That's the kind of transformative change that the science of reading could help us achieve.
It's a powerful vision, a world where literacy empowers individuals and strengthens communities. It sounds like we're talking about more than just academic success. We're talking about social justice and equity.
Absolutely. By ensuring that everyone has access to effective reading instruction, we can level the playing field, giving everyone the opportunity to thrive regardless of their background or circumstances.
That's a really compelling argument for the importance of this work. It's inspiring to think about the long-term impact. Now, shifting gears a bit, what do you see as the next frontier for the science of reading? What exciting developments are on the horizon?
One area that holds immense promise is the intersection of neuroscience and education. Researchers are using brain imaging techniques to study the neural processes involved in reading, literally peering into the brain to understand how it learns to decode and comprehend.
So we're moving beyond theory and observation and delving into the mechanics of the reading brain.
Exactly. And those insights are already informing the development of new instructional strategies and technologies. Imagine personalized learning programs that adapt to a student's unique brain activity, providing tailored instruction that maximizes their potential. That's the kind of future that neuroscience could help us create.
That's incredible. It feels like we're on the cusp of a revolution in literacy education. What other trends are you seeing?
Another important development is the growing emphasis on early intervention. We're recognizing that the earlier we identify and address reading difficulties, the greater the chances of success. It's about catching those little stumbles before they become major roadblocks.
It's like giving every child the best possible start on their literacy journey.
Precisely. We're also seeing a shift towards more data-driven instruction, using assessments and data to tailor instruction to each student's individual needs. Technology is playing a key role here, providing teachers with powerful tools to track student progress and make data-informed decisions.
So it's about moving away from a one-size-fits-all approach and embracing personalization.
Exactly. The future of literacy education is about empowering teachers with the knowledge, tools, and resources they need to create truly individualized learning experiences for every student.
Yeah, it's exciting to think about all the possibilities. But even with all this progress, I imagine there are still challenges ahead.
There are always challenges, but the growing awareness of the science of reading and the evidence supporting its effectiveness is creating a powerful momentum. More and more educators, policymakers, and parents are recognizing the importance of evidence-based reading instruction. It's a movement that's gaining traction, and I'm optimistic about the future.
It feels like we're at a tipping point, a moment where things could really shift.
I agree. And it's a movement that has the potential to transform countless lives. As we wrap up this deep dive, I'm reminded of a quote by author Rita Mae Brown. "Language is the roadmap of a culture. It tells you where its people come from and where they are going. By embracing the science of reading, we're not just teaching kids to read, we're equipping them to navigate their own cultures, to understand the world around them, and to shape the future."
That's beautifully said. I love how that quote connects language, culture, and the power of literacy. It really underscores the transformative potential of the science of reading. As we conclude our exploration, I want to thank you for joining us on this journey. We hope you've gained valuable insights, a deeper understanding of the science of reading, and perhaps even a renewed appreciation for the importance of literacy.
And remember, this conversation doesn't end here. I encourage you to keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep advocating for evidence-based reading instruction in your own communities.
We all have a role to play in ensuring that every child has the opportunity to become a skilled and confident reader. It's a mission worth pursuing. So till next time, keep those pages turning and those minds engaged. Happy reading, everyone.